Today we have Dr. Dinithi Fernando, or Professor Dinithi Fernando, as our guest, and she's going to talk about the topic which we have mentioned already. But let's start by asking you a few questions because, including myself, there may be lots of others who don't know about you, Dinithi. So give us your background. Who are you? First of all, where are you coming from? Which area in Sri Lanka are you from?
Thank you very much, Ruan. First of all, before I answer your question, I must thank a few people here. That's Nirmalan. He's the one who introduced me to your group. Nirmalan, I have known Nirmalan for a long time. He's a few years senior to me in Colombo Medical School. But I think their batch was out when we came in, but he was famous because he was a bright student. Then in 2020, we met Niroshini, Nirmalan when they came to for the 150th Colombo Medical School anniversary. We met, and then I think he got to know my inclination towards the arts. And then after that, we've been in touch on and off, Niroshini, Nirmalan and I. So I think that is the reason why I was introduced to this group. And thank you very much, Ruan, for accepting me and inviting me to give this talk. With that, the question, who am I? And where I come from, it's a bit of a long answer. I'll try to shorten it as much as possible. So I've been a gypsy, in my life in Sri Lanka, because of my father's occupation as an administrative officer. We haven't been in one place for a long time. So in my childhood, I was in Galle. I went to Sacred Heart Convent, Galle, where I had my primary education. Then my father was transferred to Anuradhapura. So then our whole family moved to Anuradhapura, and there I went to Holy Family Convent in Anuradhapura. And from there, then we spent about 4 years there, and then my father was transferred to Gampaha. So then we all came to that area. Then we resided in Sidu, and then I went to Newstead College Girls School, Nigambo. And from there, I did my O-levels, and I did my A-levels in Devi Balika Vidyalaya in Colombo. So I've traveled all over the country. And then I did my undergrad in Colombo Medical Faculty. And I graduated in 1995. And then soon after my internship, I joined the Department of Physiology. And I specialized in internal medicine. But now, more than a clinician, I'm a teacher in physiology. At the same time, I head this stream in the Colombo Medical Faculty called the Humanities, Society and Professionalism stream, where the students are exposed to medical ethics, professionalism, medical humanities, and about this health psychology and those aspects that are, not included in their routine science and basic sciences, applied sciences, and clinical sciences curriculum. So I have a lot of interest in that area, and that's a post that I hold with a lot of interest, I would say. So that's me basically. Right. Okay. So I have 3 sons who are grown up, who moved out of home. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Dinithi. Out of interest, you said your father has been moving from one place to the other quite frequently. What was he doing actually? What was his job?
He was a price controller.
Okay.
So yes, so I think he started off as a assistant food controller or something, and he worked in Mathura in early 1970s during the insurgency days. And then that's like, I very vaguely remember that period. I was very small then. Then like he worked in Gaul, and then Anuradhapura, and then Gampha, and then finally in Colombo.
So when you said, this is a bit of a controversial question, when you said your father had to move from one place to the other, were they sort of legitimate transfers, or were they political transfers, or did he have
No,
gone to the...
they were very, very legitimate transfers, and I think Anuradhapura was my father's choice. I think he could have gone to Kandy uh, or one other place, and he chose Anuradhapura because of his love for history and archaeology.
Okay. So, knowing that your topic today, your chosen topic today, is about carols, I want to believe, or I have a suspicion that you may be Christian, but I think probably I'm wrong. Could you let us know your background, please? Religious background?
You're right, actually. So I was born to and I was raised in a Roman Catholic family in Sri Lanka. Both my parents were Catholics. After I grew up, like, I think I have kind of distanced myself from institutionalized religion, but it doesn't mean that like I'm, totally not Christian also. It's difficult to explain. Um, but when I met Dr. Ruwan Ekanayak, I don't think he's here today. I met him briefly a few months ago at the Ceylon College of Physicians annual sessions. So he introduced this very nice term to me. So he asked about me, and then I was explaining myself to him, and then he said, so you are a cultural Catholic. So then it struck a chord in me, because like although like I don't I'm not a regular churchgoer, or like as I was used to do when I was smaller. All my, I think my worldview and the way I look at things, my values, the values I believe in, I think all that have been shaped by the faith that I grew up in. So I think he in two words, he described it very well, a cultural Catholic. So yeah.
Okay. So my next question is, you are a medical doctor, and you're a professor in physiology.
Yes.
How did you get into, looking at the history of carols and probably history of the Catholic Church, I suppose?
It's again mainly due to the influence of my parents. Both of them were arts graduates in Peradeniya University, and my mother, of course, like any other mother in Sri Lanka in that generation, was busy raising us, looking after us, like attending to all our needs. And Tata, like he went to work, like work was his life, and then he came home and he was engaged in reading and writing and basically books. His other life was books. So then he read a lot in both English and Sinhala, and whenever like I had any questions in my Sinhala literature lessons, I used to turn to him and I used to ask him, and he could recite all these Sandesha Kavya, Guttila Kavya, and other most of these works from his memory. So there were discussions as well. Sometimes like it was a pain also, because like Tata knew so much, and he tried to put that all in to me and my brother. My brother, of course, like was not interested very much at that time. He is now. So I was the guinea pig. So then like although like he was the one who encouraged me to go into medicine. Throughout my younger days, like he engaged me in all these, and I think that kept my passion on these arts alive. So it's mostly him. And then there's one, and also like Tata had this funny story. He said that he auditioned for the Singha Bahu chorus in Peradeniya, but he failed the audition. And then like at that time, I vaguely remember him telling me that these Nadagam songs by Professor Sarachchandra, some of them were taken from the Guru dances in these coastal areas. And there was some connection between this Duwa Passion Place and this Nadagam. So I had that vague memory also in me. And then one day, maybe a few years ago, I happened to listen to a talk by a young Sri Lankan author and a poet called Mahinda Prasad Massimbula. I don't know whether you have heard about him. He's an award-winning poet and a novelist. So there he spoke a lot about Father Jacome Gonsalves and his works. So that, I think, kind of rekindled my passion in this area, and I started reading. So that's how I got into this particular topic. Then following his talk, I read several books on his works, and it was quite an interesting area to know how this music, Sinhala music culture in Christian Sinhala music culture in Sri Lanka evolved from the 1700s up to now.
One last question for you, Dinithi, before you start your presentation. Knowing your interest in Christian carols, have you or your father tried to compose any carols or any hymns for the church?
No, I haven't. I don't think my father has either, but I know you have. No. So the answer is no, we haven't.
Thank you very much. So over to you. You can start your presentation now. Thank you.
Okay, may I share my screen?
Sure, yeah.
So in the late 1800s and early 1900s, at the time they were introduced into the country, the oldest Buddhist devotional songs, or Bhakti Gita, as we call them now, were called Vesak carols. And these Vesak carols were sung by what are called Preeti Gayana Samiti, or carol parties. So these carol parties or Preeti Gayana Samiti, they sang both Vesak and Christmas carols. And in fact, Amaradeva and Ananda Samarakon, who are legends in the Sri Lankan music scenario, they made their debut in singing in these carol parties. In his early days as a singer, Amaradeva actually led a carol group in Koralavalla in Moratuwa. So in these two pictures, I'm sorry if they are not very clear. I was trying to find pictures of these carol parties or carol singers in the olden days in the internet, but I could not. So these two pictures are actually stills from a movie called Viragaya. So I don't know whether you have seen that movie. So the Viragaya is a novel by Martin Wickramasinghe, which was turned into a movie by Lester James Pierce. So in that, there is a song, an old Vesak carol sung by a group of children. So as the books described how these carol parties were, these were group songs, and the carolers were mainly children or young people, youngsters, and they wore this shiny golden attire, as you can see here. And they wore crowns, and they looked like celestial beings. And the melodies and the rhythm of these carols that were sung in these early 1900s were like very simple. And these melodies were easily rememberable, and the rhythm is called 6/8 rhythm. And the carolers were accompanied by a violinist, a drummer, and also harmonium player, as you can see in this bottom picture. So these two shots are from that movie where they sing this carol. And also they used a pair of small cymbals or talampata in Sinhala in accompaniment. So yeah, so that's how these carol parties looked in those olden days. So the first carol in Sinhala language was written in 1730, which was more than 150 years before the first Vesak carol in Sinhala was sung in the city of Colombo in 1886. So during this talk, I will be speaking to you about the person who wrote the first carol in our country, and also tell you very briefly about his contributions to the Sinhala music culture, which I have gathered from reading literature about his works. And therefore, I titled my talk, The Musical Missionary, a Harmonious Interlude in Sri Lankan History. So I did this same talk in 2022 for a COMSA gathering, Colombo Medical School Alumni Association. And at that time, actually, two medical students, this Oshada and Tilina from A-Level 2020 batch, and Yashoda, young lecturer from the Department of Pediatrics in our faculty, and one of our graduates, Dr. Roshan, they sang these songs live. So this picture is from one of the practice sessions, and you can see Oshada playing the keyboards and Tilina playing using a color as his drum, and Yashoda and Roshan singing. So if you have earphones or headphones, I would like to suggest that you wear them because unfortunately, I don't have the recordings of that presentation where they sang live, but I have some recordings, audio clips from the practice sessions. So the clarity may not be that good in those practice sessions. So if you have your earphones and headphones on, you will hear the words clearly of these songs. But I personally, I really like these audio clips because they are very sweet and they are very spontaneous and genuine during these practice sessions, and there are some false starts also. But in spite of that, they sing very beautifully even during their practice sessions. And unfortunately, in one of them, you will hear my voice as well. I'm not a singer, but I had to sing because the young ones here were not very familiar with the song. So in order to make sure that they got the tune right, I had to sing also. So please bear with me for only one song. Right, so that's about our singers. So then to get on with my story, so this is a map of Goa. Goa, I think all of you know, is a southwestern, a state in the southwestern coast in India. And Goa also has a very rich and a vibrant history and culture. Mostly, I think, because it has also been under the rule of many empires, including the Maurya Empire of Asoka. And in 1500s, it became a colony of the Portuguese. So while it was under the Portuguese in 1676, our hero of this story was born to a Konkani Brahmin family in this city called Diwari in Goa. So this is our hero. This is the boy who grew up to be a handsome young man who was educated in Catholic institutions in Goa. And in 1700, at the age of 24, he ordained as an Oratorian priest. And his name is Jacome Gonsalves. By about 1705, Father Gonsalves, who was a very bright Oratorian priest, was the chair of philosophy at the University of St. Paul's in Goa. So this is the map of Sri Lanka at that time in 1705. At that time, it was called Ceylon. Most of the coastal belts was under the Dutch at this time. The northern peninsula and also the southern coastal belt, they all were under the rule of the Dutch at this point. So Father Gonsalves, at that point, who was in India, was asked by Father Joseph Vaz, who was in Ceylon at that time, Father Joseph Vaz sent out a request to his fellow Oratorian priest in Goa, asking for help to carry out the missionary work in Sri Lanka. So he wrote a letter, and at once, Father Jacome Gonsalves, he thought he should volunteer, and he thought it was his duty, or it was his calling to go to Ceylon and help Father Joseph Vaz with his missionary work. So he arrived in Talaimana in 1705. So during this time, only the central part of the country was like under the kings of Sinhala. So King Narendra Singha was the king at the time when Father Jacome Gonsalves arrived in Talaimana in 1705. So by the time he arrived in the island, he was already proficient in many languages, including Konkani, Latin, and Spanish. And he was an individual with a remarkable linguistic intelligence, and he quickly learned Sinhala and Tamil from the village folk in the coastal belt. So actually, he understood that the path to win the hearts of the natives in order to convert them to Catholicism was to learn their mother tongue and to talk to them in their mother tongue. So he was very smart in that way. And also he was asked to translate the prayers to Sinhala and Tamil by his superior, who was Father Joseph Vaz. But Father Jacome Gonsalves was hesitant to do that without learning the local language properly. And he did not find any Sinhala scholars in the southern coastal belt of Sri Lanka, not the southern coastal belt, like the coastal belt of Sri Lanka, but because like there were only like poor fisher folk and rural people living in that area. So what happened was, while he was looking for a way to learn proper Sinhalese in order to translate all these prayers and religious scriptures, he got an invitation from King Narendra Singha to come to Kandy and learn Sinhala at the king's court. So this was mediated by Father Joseph Vaz, who maintained a very special bond with the king of the Sinhala kingdom at the time. So then Father Jacome Gonsalves moved to Kandy to learn Sinhala. So under the patronage of Father Joseph Vaz, and also under the auspices of the king of Sinhala at the time, King Narendra Singha, Father Jacome Gonsalves started learning Sinhala from Buddhist monks of the Malwatha chapter, who are very famous for their elegant usage of Sinhala language. And also, as you can see in this picture, there's a strange guy here. His name is Gascon, Pedro de Gascon, and in Sinhala he's known as Dascon. So he was the son of a Frenchman and a Portuguese mother, and he was an Adiga. He was the first Adiga in King's Court, and he also had a very good knowledge in Sinhala, and Father Jacome Gonsalves learned Sinhala from Dascon or Gascon as well. And he became very, very fluent in Sinhala. So after learning Sinhala and also Tamil, Father Gonsalves continued with his missionary duties. And then after some time, Father Joseph Vaz passed away, and he became the Vicar General of the Southern Catholic Division. And the headquarters of this was in Kandy, and Father Gonsalves moved to Kandy, and he coordinated missionary work from there. So one day, while he was yawning, his temporomandibular joint was dislocated, and the lower half of his face was severely distorted. And he was in great pain, and he could not speak. And the royal physicians treated him, but they were not successful in correcting the severe disfigurement and the phonetic disability that followed this joint dislocation. So Father Gonsalves actually had to abandon his preaching, and because of this very painful and ugly disability, but this proved to be a blessing in disguise, because he intensified his writing. By this time, he has started translating the scriptures to Sinhala and Tamil, and following this very unfortunate incident, he focused mostly on writing. So this marked the beginning of the Sinhala Catholic literature and also the indigenization of the Catholicism in the island. Father Gonsalves, he used the vast knowledge he already had gained by studying the old Sinhala classics such as Buduguna Lankarya, Sandesha Kavya, etc. And the stuff that he learned from the village folk, like Vannam and other types of art forms. He wrote many books. So he wrote about 20 Sinhala books during his lifetime, and 5 of these books were song and verse books. So today I'm focusing on a song from one of those books called the Mangala Geetiya. And he wrote extensively in Tamil too. Yeah. So he was actually a natural musician as well, and he could play many instruments, including the organ, the violin, and the drums also. And while he was in Goa, in his church, he was the main chief organist there. So these 2 books by Professor Sunil Lari, Ratna Carol Pasam Kantaru, and Jacome Gonsalves Toragat Kruti. These are these are the main references of mine. And in addition to these two books, I have taken some information from this book as well. This is, the title is A Critical Study of the Works of Father Jacome Gonsalves by Father Anthony Fernando Pulle. This is Father Fernando Pulle's PhD thesis, which was published in 1999, where he analyzes all the works of Father Gonsalves. So, Mangala Geethiya, or Festival of Songs, as it translates into English, according to Professor Sunil Ariyaratne, is the first Sinhala anthology of songs or carols. And it is said that Father Gonsalves' compositions were influenced by South Indian Carnatic music style and also the Sinhala folk music such as Vannam. And these were sung to the rhythm of drums and cymbals. And it is said that Father Gonsalves used to play a violin also while he was performing for the king. So the name of, so there is, one of the first songs in Mangala Geethiya is called Kristu Upan Sinduwa, or the Song of the Christ's Birth. So it is thought that the word Sindhu, I think this Sindhu comes from the Tamil language, was added to Sinhala language during this time. So we will now listen to an audio clip of one of the first songs he wrote. This is sung by Yashoda, Roshan, Oshada, and Tilina. We will see how this goes. And I have translated it into English also.
Dinithi, we can't hear anything.
Oh, sorry. I can hear it. Let me see.
You know, when you share, there is a button to press. You know, there are two buttons to press. One says you're sharing your computer audio and the video. Did you press those two buttons? If you want, you can unshare and share it again, and then hit those buttons as well. Then only we will be able to hear. So first of all, unshare your presentation. Yeah, it's at the top somewhere, the button. Right? Now press the share button, and then on the right-hand corner, there are two buttons to be pressed. Can you see that? When you press the share button, there are two buttons which appear on the right-hand side usually, asking whether to share your computer, audio, and video.
Just let me.
Yeah, you need to restart, I think. Yeah, Increase the volume, please.
Can you hear now?
Yes, we can. Increase the volume if you can, please.
I have increased it to the maximum. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
That
we
is the
heard.
maximum. Okay. So, so this song, Devindu Upannaya, is one of the first Sinhala songs and one of the first Sinhala carols, and it is still sung occasionally in carol services during Christmas time, and that was one of the songs that was playing as I logged into the meeting today, and I was pleasantly surprised to hear that. So that is from Mangala Geethiya, or the first song book that was written in Sinhala. So now a little bit about the history of the Vesak Bhaktigi or Vesak carols in Sri Lanka. So in 1885, a public holiday for Vesak was approved by the government on a request by Venerable H. Sri Sumangala Thero and Sir Ponnambalam Ramanathan. And the first Vesak carol, as they were known during the time, was written and sung in 1886, more than 100 years after Mangala Geethiya, the first Sinhala carol. So the first Vesak festival and the first Vesak carol were introduced by a person called Charles Webster Leadbeater, who was an Englishman Buddhist and who was the co-founder of the English Buddhist Academy, which is presently called Ananda Vidyalaya Colombo. And this is the point in time where the native Vesak festival or the native Vesak celebrations was kind of anglicized and it was Christianized. And the songs and the Vesak lanterns and Vesak pandals were added to the Vesak festival. And this is the time the festival was transformed into an extravagant affair. Before that, there is no history that all these songs, the carol parties and Vesak lanterns and the pandals had been there. So actually the lyrics of the first Vesak carol is available, but I could not find the tune or any recording of the song. Because of that, we will now listen to an old Vesak carol which was written, you know, in mid-1900s. Okay, so that was one of the very old Vesak carols or Vesak Bhakti Geet. Now let us see how the rhythm and the melody and the style of the first Sinhala carol from Mangala Geetha, which is Devindu Upannaya, compares with this old Sinhala Vesak song, and we will listen to a medley of that. Right. So I hope you were able to identify some similarities in this old Christian song and in the Buddhist songs. There are similarities in the rhythm and also in the melody and also in the simplicity of the tune as well. They are not very complicated tunes, like anybody can remember them easily. So that was a comparison of these very old Christian and Buddhist Sinhala songs. Now, let us move on to another aspect or another contribution by Father Gonsalves to the evolution of the Sinhala music culture. This is not the whole of it, but in the interest of time, I will touch upon only this aspect in addition to carols. So this genre of Sinhala music theatre is called Nadagam, and it is said that Father Jacome Gonsalves contributed a lot to the origin and the development of this Nadagam style music. So this tradition of Nadagam came to Sri Lanka from South India in the late 1800s. And before that, there were like several compositions by songs by Father Gonsalves, and we will see how they influence this Nadagam theatre style. So there is historical evidence, mainly from the works of Professor Sunil Ariyaratne and also by Father Anthony Fernando Pulle, that this pasam, or lyrical and musical dramatic interpretation of the Passion of Christ, was already established in the coastal belt, and these passion plays helped in the establishment and also the development of the Nadagam music style in Sri Lanka. And these first Nadagamas in Sri Lanka, they originated from the coastal belts, coastal areas of Sri Lanka. For example, the first Nadagama that has been documented, which is called Rajathun Kattuwa, was composed in late 1880s by Gabriel Fernando Master of Chilau. Those days, these Nadagam Guru Nanses were called Master, so he's called Gabriel Fernando Master. And even before that, now, although the first documented Nadagama is Rajathun Kattuwa, but even before that, during the time of or soon after the time of Father Gonsalves, there have been other Guru Nanses who had done similar work. And one name that keeps on appearing in these books is called Pilipu Sinyo. So, these Guru Nanses, sometimes they have borrowed only the melodies from Father Gonsalves' songs, or at times they have taken the songs in whole and incorporated into their Nadagamas. So now we will listen to this a song by Father Gonsalves, which was composed in 1700s. And right after that, we will also listen to a Nadagama song, which we are very familiar with, that was composed more than 200 years later in 1958 by Professor Prof Sarachchandra. And please see whether you can see any similarities in these two songs. Okay, I hope you were able to again see the similarities in the songs. And it is said that when Professor Sarachchandra produced his Maname, he met these Guru Nanses in the Duva area, and these tunes, like he recorded from the Nadagam Guru Nanses in the Duva area, and he came and he used these tunes in his exquisite songs in Maname drama. So, are we okay for time, Ruan? Is there time to listen to one more song?
Yeah, we are not pressed for time. You can take any time you want. Thank you.
Okay, right. So there's another example like that, and just see whether you can appreciate any similarities here as well. So I am playing Father Gonsalves' song first.
Adivina binda harina, Adivina binda harina, lesa power manu vesin. Guru se mata veda inna, teda devaya balane. Niraye apasaturugen jayaganna Sant Guru se adayal mein Vidya put spritu santu get namen amen Jesus. Surajasune Paramandalavala Veda Siddhina Devi Pituru Gedakune Devi Pituru Gedakune Aradhita Veva Obenamaya Enuladeva
Okay, so let's listen to Professor Sarachchandra's song in Maname. Right, again, some similarities in the two songs. Right. So those are some examples of how the Nadagam songs that were influenced by Father Jacome Gonsalves' tunes were like incorporated into the Nadagamas that were composed by Prof Sarachchandra in 1950s. So then like very briefly, what happened after Father Gonsalves' time. So how did the Sinhala Catholic music tradition evolve after that? He passed away in 1742, and after that, around 1796, the island came under the British rule. And although the British gave the natives religious freedom, the Jacome Gonsalves traditions, like all the efforts that he took to indigenize the religion, the use of Sinhala language in the scriptures and the prayers and the songs and other dramatic representations of the Christ life, all those faded into oblivion. And the church embraced the British, the French, and the Latin traditions in their rituals. And Sinhala and Tamil like disappeared from the Catholic scene. And then like there were several people who revived this tradition, like in the late 1800s and again in the early 1900s to mid 1900s. So this first person here is Bishop Edmund Pieris, who was born in late 1880s. And he took a great effort to bring in Sinhala into the service and to compose prayers and like also hymns in Sinhala. And then this person is Mr. J.K.S. Pereira from Nainamadama. He was a school principal and he was a great musician at the time. And actually, we have the notations of Father Jacome Gonsalves' songs thanks to him, because like these tunes were transferred from generation to generation by word of mouth. But Mr. J.K.S. Pereira was the one who put them into notations, and that is how we have all the tunes documented now. And this person is Father Moses Pereira of Dehiyagata. He also wrote many Sinhala hymns, and he and Sunil Santa, who is here, like they were relatives. Father Moses Pereira of Dehiyagata was the uncle, Sunil Santa was the nephew. So together they composed music for a lot of Sinhala hymns, and both were members of the Hela Haula. And then this is Ivo Dennis, also kind of a Golea of Sunil Santa. And this is famous Father Marcelin Jayakodi. And actually, Professor Sunil Yariratna talks a lot about Father Marcelin Jayakodi in his books, when he talks about the evolution of Sinhala Catholic music tradition in Sri Lanka. But for some reason, he doesn't talk about the contributions by Bishop Edmund Pieris and Mr. J.K. Pereira and Father Moses Pereira. It could be because out of all these people, it was the creative prowess was highest in Father Marcelin Jayakodi. Like I think like his songs, his hymns, his carols, like that were written in Sinhala, they are like exquisite creations with usage of beautiful Sinhala language. And I think it must be because of that in Professor Sunil Ariratna's books that the works of Father Marcelin Jayakodi is highlighted more than anybody else. So the significance of all these people, why I want to say something about these all these people is, now the Second Vatican Council, which was I think held in 1962, if I'm not wrong, like discussed and they endorsed and they approved indigenization of the religion in the countries. And before that, it was all like Latin. But the church formally approved indigenization after the Second Vatican Council. But all these people, Bishop Edmund Pires, Mr. J.K. Pereira, Father Marcelin Jayakodi, and Father Moses Pereira of the Hiagata, they all like had started they are like incorporating like Sinhala traditions into the Catholic music way before the Second Vatican Council. So therefore, actually, they are called the forerunners of the national consciousness, because they did it before the church formally approved that. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. And I think I have what I have presented tonight is a very simplified version of the work by Father Gonsalves with this Goan Missionary. And this account is hugely incomplete, I would say, because the history includes not only the good and the beautiful, but also the bad and the ugly. Actually, Father Gonsalves is known to be an antagonist of Buddhism. He has written several books like Ajnana Aushadaya and Buddhu Mula, like that, criticizing Buddhism. So there is that aspect as well. So I think it is important to be exposed to all these stories because we live in a multicultural society. And as a result, like we are threatened by our own like tribal insecurities. So, and because of that, like we tend to look for pure cultures, pure civilizations and untainted religions and philosophies. But in the reality, like we don't find that. So this verse or this extract by Yuval Noah Harari validates what I just said. He says this in his popular science book, Sapiens. Harari, he lives in Jerusalem and he's Jewish by ethnicity and he's a practicing Buddhist. He says that perhaps you could make a case that some myriad cultures that emerged at the dawn of the recorded history were pure, untouched by sin, and unadulterated by other societies. But no culture since that dawn can reasonably make that claim. Certainly no culture that exists now on earth. And at a very recent interview, Harari was asked the question, what is the worst crisis in your view the humanity will face in the next 100 years? And his answer was collapse of human cooperation, not global warming or not climate change. So yeah, so this is the book, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. And yeah, so in our society, we have been exposed to a lot of things, and we have gone through all these like influences from the Portuguese, the Dutch, and from the Goan missionaries, and from like a lot of other cultures. And we keep on absorbing them, and sometimes we shed them, and then we don them again, and things always change, and they're in a flux. And therefore, like this search for originality and sometimes purity can be futile, actually. So instead, what I believe is that the awareness of a multi-source heritage will perhaps make us more accepting and facilitate human cooperation within the societies that we live. So yeah, so that I think would be the last thing that I would have to say today. And thank you very much for taking your time on a Sunday and coming here to listen to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dinithi, for that lovely lecture. Can you unshare your screen, please, so that we could start the discussion? Right,
Yeah.
before, so this is the time for you to ask questions. So please raise your hand if you have one. But just before allowing that, I have to share a small anecdote. A few years ago, I interviewed Jackson Anthony in this forum, Literary Society, and before interviewing him, he told me that he had written a book called Kanda the Genra. It's a fiction, but it was fact-based historical fiction, and I have read that book, and I am going to recommend that to you if you can get hold of that book. It's available throughout, in Sri Lanka, and it was a fiction around Narendra Singha's time, and Father Gonsalves and Joseph Vaz, and all those people are in that book, woven into a very beautiful story, and most of it are fact-based as well. So that's a lovely book if anybody wants to purchase. Right, the time to ask questions. Any burning questions from anybody? Mice.
Dinithi, thanks. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. Just a quick question.
Yeah,
You know, the verses or the music Father Gonsalves wrote and the similarities with Maname. Who was the composer of those music? Was it the Guru Vanses, or was it the priest himself? Who composed the music?
The priest himself composed, and it is said that they were transferred from generation to generation, and they remembered these tunes, and they actually the lyrics were there because Father Gonsalves, he had a press and he printed these, and the lyrics were there, and the tunes were they were remembered by people, and they sang them from generation to generation. So the tunes were originally from the priest himself, and the Guru Nan says they borrowed those melodies from him, and sometimes not only the melody, the whole song was taken into their nadagam.
In the Eastern tradition, I think I don't think it's available in the Western tradition, but in the Eastern tradition, we have the ragas, we have a certain amount of ragas, and most of the songs are built on those ragas. And then more recently, the Baila, there are about 20, or now they say about 40 melodies which were turned into different songs. So I think that's the tradition we have in the East, and that's being, it's not necessarily copying somebody, but it's being influenced by those original ragas or the bailas, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
I saw a hand.
Ruan, my hand is not appearing, but if that hand belongs to somebody else, let that person ask the question. I'll come back afterwards.
No, you can go ahead, please, Sati.
Thank you very much. I think what we heard is a very, very excellent talk, and thank you to you, because I think it makes people think beyond their normal intellect, that halo that they have around them. What I mean is, you used two terms which I think makes people think. You used two terms. One was multi-source heritage, and the other one was multiculturalism, because I tend to think that the word, or the coined words multiculturalism, tends to be misunderstood in mainly separating cultures and separating people, whereas it should be interlinked to multi-source heritage. Now, having mentioned that as a kind of prelude to my question, can I ask you whether the Carols or the Malayalam music had any input into this development of the Catholic music being developed into the Sinhala culture?
I'm sorry, I really don't know the answer to that. So what Professor Sunila Ariyaratne says in his publications, and also Father Fernando Pulle says, is that his influence mainly came from southern South Indian Carnatic music. So whether that includes this Malayalam music, I'm not sure.
Thank you. The reason I asked that question is because of your reference to the Catholic priest resident in Goa and the influence of the Goans in developing this.
Yes, so I'm sure there have been influences from Malayalam music as well, because Father Gonsalves, when he came to Sri Lanka, he was already an accomplished musician, so he may have brought those with him as well. So, and it is said that not only the music from South India, but what he learned from the fisher folk, the folk music in Sri Lanka, all these Vannam and all these Kavi, Jana Kavi, all those also may have had some influence in composing these melodies and also words too.
Thank you. And I have a supplementary to that, and that is, within your research, did you find out anything about the instruments that were used in the development of the Catholic faith into the Sinhala language?
Yes, initially, it is said that during this Father Gonsalves' time, that he used the violin a lot, and then drums. It would have been local drums, and it does not say exactly what type of drums they are, but violin and drums are mentioned in these publications.
Thank you. We will let Ruan research that aspect and then come back to us later.
Of course, I will, certainly. Right, Narada, you have a question? Please unmute yourself, Narada. You are muted.
Narada, you are still muted.
Right, okay. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear now?
I don't know if you remember when I gave the talk and when I learned that Dinithi was going to talk in November, I recommended to everyone that even if you drop out from my talk, don't miss Dinithi's, right? I think I'm fully vindicated by what I said now. And Dinithi, I'm listening to for the second time, and this is better than even what you delivered at the faculty. Dinithi, you are hearing me or what?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. I mean, it is.
Thank you so much.
I don't know what to say.
Very kind of you.
I think, yeah, you sort of. I mean, there was something so profound in it, but it was so delicate and elegant. I don't know how to mix it, really. And I really wish that some hardline Jatika Chintana kind of types listen to you, right? Okay. It's so. I'm a Buddhist, and I'm married to a Catholic whose father was Buddhist. So this multicultural influence of participating in this has gone with me, especially since my marriage. and it was lovely to listen to you. So, two questions. One is, I would like you to tell me a little more about the Duo Passion Play, and whether that is still going on, and whether there are any recordings or things, can we watch one of the original Duo Passion Plays anywhere, right? That's the first question. Second question is, when we were medical students, we sang some beautiful Buddhist Bhakti Gita, the lyrics of which I suspect Professor Kodagoda may have had some input into them, but they were truly original 6 or 7 songs, because Nihali Nettigada was one of the active people with me, my batchmate. I am a little worried whether those songs are there, whether the recordings of those songs and the lyrics are there. If I would entrust to you, especially in the Department of Medical Humanities, to look into the origin of the Vesak Bhakti in the Colombo faculty and make sure that those songs are not lost. So those are the second is more a comment rather than the first is about the Duo Passion.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your kind words and being here also, like for the second time as well. I will address your second comment first. Yes, those old Bhakti Gita which were composed by Professor Kodagoda, they are still here. And like the words are there, and there are some people who have preserved them and kept them, documented them. And in our, like in the faculty, nowadays actually the Bhakti Gita, the faculty Bhakti Gita are sung during the Poson season, not the Vesak season. So we still make sure that we include 1 or 2 those old Bhakti Gita also into the concert. So they are there. So rest assured that they are safe and the tunes are remembered and they are still there. And yes, I will make sure from the HSPS, our stream also, that they are collected and compiled. And I think it would be a good idea to make a compilation and give it to the library, medical library. And thank you for that comment. And then about Do a Passion Plays, I think, yes, you can, in the YouTube, you can find several videos of these Do a Passion Plays. And to my knowledge, they are still going on. And actually, there are like lots of articles, literature, like newspaper articles and all. And I will send some to you. So they are like now olden days. Now during Father Gonsalves' days, like it is said that just like in Theravada Buddhism, that humans do not play the role of the Lord Buddha. During those days, like human, like the people did not play the role of Jesus Christ, like the images, the puppetry. Puppetry was used like to depict the role of Jesus Christ. But then later on it changed, and the human actors like came into these plays, and these puppetry and those like images or the statues were replaced by humans. And it is said that earlier, like even the female characters were played by the male actors, but later on that too has changed, and the female actresses were incorporated into these passion plays. And the songs, of course, are very much like sung even to this day. These we call them in Sinhala pasan. So these pasan gayana, as we call them, like they are like heard very regularly during the Lent. And if there are any people who know about passion plays in the audience, Udesh, I don't know about you. Thank you very much, Udesh, for coming here. Udesh Fernando is my guest. I invited him. He has been a chorist in Moratua. So, and he's also very much interested in these old carols and these Catholic music literature. So if you know anything more about it today, you are welcome to educate us.
Dinithi, just about the word Kantaru also, if you just explain Kantaru.
Yes, so Kantaru comes from a Portuguese word called canta. So that refers to like singing. So that is used like, you don't say like, it is used also in a kind of a strange way in Sinhala. You say Kantaru karanawa, not Kantaru kiyanawa or Kantaru gayanawa. It's Kantaru karanawa. So this the word Kantaru, it refers to singing of hymns during the service, and the word comes from the word canta in Portuguese language.
Right. The next question is from actually Udesh. Udesh, before I ask, I'll love you to ask the question. Just tell me where you are from in Moratuwa, which church you attend?
I am from Koralavel. I was going to start from there.
Okay, so which church do you attend in Koralavel?
It was the St. Michael's Koralavel, St. Michael the Archangel. Yeah.
Okay, I asked because I'm also from Moratuwa. So, right, okay. Your question.
So thank you very much. More than a question, it was also a compliment. I think Professor Fernando has like with grace, like given a holistic picture with the limited time she had about the whole thing, and then it like really gave me the memories of being a chorist as well as the church organist at Koralavel. And then when you covered the whole spectrum of like Amaradeva and then these different carolers groups going house to house during Christmas, this is still a tradition in Koralavel, carried out to this day. It's very strong, like youth clubs in Koralavel, the church, the youth movement, they go house to house with a rabana and then a tambourine and so on. Of course, the talampata had been replaced, and maybe a melodica, going house to house, still caroling around like you see in parts of Europe. And then apart from that, like Koralavel, for some reason, had a very strong tradition to very Reverend Father Jacome Gonsalves songs. I remember we had a full cupboard of very old texts coming from the early manuscripts of J.K.S. Pereira, and possibly, I was a young kid way back. I did have a historical interest way back. But then we had a very strong tradition at Koralavel to teach young students as well as choristers the whole songs of Father Jacome Gonsalves. That's how I got exposed to it, and also the lyrics as well as the notation which I played myself. So I'm sure like there are like certain Catholic villages which still keeps up with the tradition, but then they also possibly don't know the history behind it. It also like really I was thinking like if we could like also maybe like start a small initiative, maybe talk with a university of arts and so on to like commission a small research on this area. There would be like more knowledge, unraveled in the process, which would be like really interesting. And then, at St. Joseph's, where I studied, I had the association of Very Reverend Father Anthony Fernando, who was also at one time my religion teacher, So at St. Joseph's, as Josephian Catholics, we are like bullied into the whole history of the Catholic Church music. And there at St. Joseph's, I was again at the choir. So these songs were not like alien to us. So we were like nurtured through the history of the music and so on. And then if I may compare the Eastern music classes, we had Catholic teachers teaching us Eastern music, meaning we were again exposed to the rich history of Father Jacome Gonsalves and then, the whole historical background. Apart from that, I also made a tour way back to, someone asked a question I remember on Kerala, the influence of Malayali music. I was in Kochi, and then this was again during Christmas. I was looked after by a Kochi family for like 2 or 3 weeks. I was on an experiential visit of sorts sent by St. Joseph's College again when I was a A-level student. And there I again saw a lot of similarities between and when I say Catholic, these were the Syro Malangara and Syro Malabar, the indigenous Catholic Church of India or the South India, right? Possibly where Father Jacome Gonsalves also had ties with him. So when I listened to the songs, prayers, they were like very similar to the traditional Catholic songs we heard. And then I also had an opportunity to visit the Archdiocese and meet the Archbishop of Kochi. And there you also have a museum where you can also see some remnants of, even a picture of Father Jacome Gonsalves, if I remember right. So I'm sure, because at that time, I think it was under the Archdiocese of Kochi, which Sri Lanka was governed by, you know. So I'm sure, I mean, this could even be international research of sorts if we are serious about it and commission stuff. So there are all these little dots in which could be like really tied up and so on. And then the cantorum part, I got immediate reaction. It also comes from the canticles, the prayers. These are not prayers, but then also like more of jubilations, joyful expressions. So cantorum also comes from the cantata, where choristers usually get exposed to different canaticals, and then you also sing these scriptural songs in a very joyous occasion and so on. Yeah, thank you very much for the evening. It was nice to be connected, and also being among a Sri Lankan crowd. Now I live in Uppsala, Sweden. So this was such a treasure to be connected back home and then to interact with all of this.
Thank you very much for joining, Udesh.
Thank you very much, Udesh, for that. And before I give the next chance to Mahesh, I need to mention something which is related here. We have a small group of Sri Lankans in the Northwest, and Niro Nirmalan, who you can see with in the picture. Niro is our musician, and we have a repertoire of lots of Sinhalese and English songs, but we have added some Konkani songs as well. As much as Hindi and Malayali songs, because they are very close to the Sri Lankan music. So in that way, I'll give a chance to Mahesh to ask his question.
Thanks, sir. There is no doubt that there was a very established and highly developed form of music in Sri Lanka in this part of the world, in that part of the world, long before the kind of music that you're referring to, Dinithi. And the basis of that music is based on Carnatic ragas. There is a thesis submitted to the University of London by a guy called Amarapala. I think it was in the 50s or even in the 60s, where he analyzes the lifestyle in the 13th to 15th century Sri Lanka. And there is a chapter dedicated to music and musical instruments. And if you look at the musical instruments Amarapala lists, they're all sort of yal and veena and mattalam and all that kind. So all linked to Carnatic music, the Carnatic music traditions. And if you go back to Ramayana, Ravana, the king of Sri Lanka, was considered to be a great proponent of veena. So there was a very well-established Carnatic musical tradition in Sri Lanka, and I've had a discussion with Ruwan some time ago that one could make a strong case. Carnatic music was the original form of music in the Sri Lankan royal court. But unfortunately, in Sri Lanka and in South India, Carnatic music was not accessible to all segments of society because of the caste system that went with that form of music. It was accessible only to royalty and perhaps the Brahmins who were associated in the royal courts, both in South India and in Kotte period. So the thesis by Amarapala is a very interesting thesis. I've been reading that recently. So in fact, sir, the point coming to Professor Naradavarna Surya's point about how the Jatika Chintana, I'm not a Jatika Chintanite, but they would argue that we had a very highly developed form of music which is corrupted. In fact, the word that is used is tupai. I'm not sure whether that's a very derogatory kind of term, but I've heard people some of whom are my teachers referring to the kind of music that we are referring to here as a as tupai within quotes, form of music that corrupted the pure form of Hela music, or whatever they're referring to. How they would refer to that as Hela, I don't know. But that's the kind of mindset that we are dealing with here when we go into that Jatika Chintana kind of question here.
Can I respond immediately, Mahesh?
Go ahead, Narada, if you want to.
Please go ahead,
Yeah.
sir.
So I wonder whether the Jatika Chintanites who are listening or whatever it is would call Maname Tupai, because I remember as I think maybe 14-year-old, I went on the second day to see Maname at Lionel Bench, and the kind of feeling that I got when I listened to Maname at that time. And I don't think anybody would refer to Maname as Tupai. And I think Dinithi was very mild in saying, can you notice the similarity? Well, I mean, they were not similar, they were virtually identical as far as I could see. So I don't think there is anything why, and I don't know whether you call it multicultural or polycultural or whatever it is. I really think that in the current world today, we have to take whatever good from any source, and I don't think we can keep anything as pure. So I totally disagree with the Jatika Chintana that you are referring to. I mean, Gunadasa Amarasekara is someone I really respect, and I have read all his books, and I'm in touch with him even now, but I don't respect. And Nalin was 1 year junior to me at Royal. I must say I have read their thoughts very deeply, but I can't agree with them at all.
Let's not drag Jatika Chintana into this. Let's give a chance to Sriya. Sriya Kuluprana.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dinithi. I think you have spent a lot of time and energy and such a fascinating story. It's so easy for us to listen and enjoy. But I think the work that has gone into this work has to be really appreciated. That's number one. Number two is I remember my father, when I was young, he was singing some of these Vesak Bhakti Gayana that he did as a child. And at that time, it was not of that great value, but now I think the value of it. And luckily, I have a good musical memory. So I can remember one of the songs with the lyrics. So I will write it down and keep for posterity. And the third one is, of course, medical school Bhakti Gee. Actually, some of the songs were even before Professor Kudagoda's time. It was Dr. Raja Salgadu who was sort of getting us to practice. And again, some of those songs and lyrics I can remember and I can even sing today. So I will write them down and keep them. And I think Professor Carlo Fonseca's lyrics were also added later on to some of the songs. So thank you very much, Dinithi.
Thank you so much for your comments. And if you happen to write the lyrics of the faculty Bhakti Gee, please share them with us too through this group.
I will. Yeah, I will start writing them. They're all in my head now.
Thank you.
Before giving a chance to Rochana for the next question, I have a question arising from Triya's question. Actually, we know that medical faculty in Colombo has the Bhakti Gita. Are there any carol singing as well? Because I can't remember. Oh, is it right?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Our carol program is on the 5th of December. So it's mostly students, but there is like invariably a staff item as well.
Will it be available on YouTube for everybody?
I'm not sure.
Okay. If you can check on that, at least to do it online so that people who are interested can join in. That would be very helpful.
I will ask the organizers, and if they are live streaming, they will definitely share the link with you.
Thank you. Roshana.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for such a fascinating presentation. I think someone used the word elegantly presented, and I agree with that very much. Thank you very much, and it generated such a lot of interesting questions as well. Our history lessons often tend to homogenize our cultures, and especially when it comes to Catholicism in Sri Lanka. People usually see Catholicism as this entirely Western import, but as you've demonstrated in your presentation, there is a clear process of indigenization as well. And what is also very fascinating is how it has influenced Sinhala Buddhist culture as well, which nationalists often frame as the authentic local history in Sri Lankan historical narratives. So this brings me to a question about the period when Father Gonsalves lived in Kandy to learn Sinhala. So again, the Kandyan kingdom is also sort of, homogenized, right? We only, a lot of people talk of the Kandyan kingdom getting Western influences only because of people like John Doyle, or, with the fall, and which eventually led to the fall of the Kandyan kingdom in 1815. But then I was wondering, were there other Catholics living in Kandy at the time who had perhaps migrated from the coastal areas, traders or others? Are there famous stories of Catholics living in the Kandyan kingdom? Because obviously it wasn't formally recognized by the kingdom, and Father Gonsalves himself was invited by the court. Because I'm asking this because I know I've heard of one or two places in Kandy with paintings of Mother Mary depicted in a distinctly Buddhist style, like standing on a lotus flower. So I was wondering if these reflected earlier localized Catholic influences that sort of predate the formal colonial encounters that history tells us about. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your comments and also the question, Rochana. So, about your comments about this indigenization that took place from the time of Father Jacome Gonsalves. Just to add to what you said, it is said that for the first time, the use of coconut oil to light the church lamps, and also the use of these young palm fronds or gokkola in the Palm Sunday celebrations started during that period, and all the decorations with this gokkola. So that's something in addition to like what you have already said. And about the question about whether there were other people like living in Kandy except for those who were invited by the king. Like from what I have read on this topic, they don't like specifically say about, like there are no specific stories about such people living in the Kandyan kingdom during that era, but definitely it says that Father Joseph Vaz had a very close bond, had a very close association with the king, and he was treated like very well in the Kandyan kingdom, and that is how Father Jacome Gonsalves also got to go to the Kandyan kingdom to learn Sinhala. But there would have been pockets of these Catholics living in those areas, because like one interesting thing I heard was like in Wahakote, during the church service, they use these local drums in their songs or rituals, whatever. And also like they sing some of these hymns to the tune of Nelum Kavi. So these Wahakote people, those who are living in Wahakote are mostly like paddy farmers. So Nelum Kavi would have been something that is integral to their routine lifestyle. So they even now, even to this day, they sing some hymns according to the tune of these Nelunkari, and I was like really very interested, and actually I'm planning to go to Wahakotte and study about this more. So I'm sure like there were like these pockets of like people living in within the Kandyan kingdom, like close to Kandy, but I could not find any like specific stories to tell you today. But it could be a very, very interesting area to study actually.
Yes, thank you very much. The what you mentioned about the oil, that's also really interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for being here today and for the very interesting comments and questions.
Okay, next question is from Pawan.
I just want to add a bit of trivia. The first Sinhala book which was ever printed was printed in 1737 with the church verses. I'm not sure whether it is related to these books, but it will be interesting to find out whether it was Father Gonsalves' books that were actually printed, the first Sinhala book ever to be printed.
Thank you very much. It is like I really don't know whether it was a book by Father Gonsalves, but like it is said that Father Gonsalves, like he was such a prolific writer, and he employed several scribes like to write all these. But like from what I read, like these have been like inscribed in the Ola leaves. And one of those old books is still there, like preserved in the Ampitiya Seminary, apparently.
But if you look up the internet, you will find the first Sinhala book also, maybe it was published in 1737, printed in 1737 by a Dutch press, and then which continued on to be there. That will be an interesting addition.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for that.
I can't remember the very first book, Kavan, but the very first Sri Lankan newspaper to be published, I think it's Jnanartha Pradipe, which is once again a Catholic newspaper, which is still being published, I believe. Dinithi, yes?
Yes. Jnanartha Pradipe is still there.
Since 1866,
the magazine that Bishop Edmund Peary started is also a very old one, but I forget the name of that.
Okay, Mahendra, next.
Hello, I'll be very brief. Firstly, just to add my appreciation to Dinithi's talk, I was warned by Mahesh and Niroshini there's going to be something you won't forget, and make sure you attend it. And thanks to them, I had fallen asleep in front of my laptop where the meeting began, and he alerted me, and I quickly joined it. So thank you very much for that. Secondly, I don't think Gonçalo Corral and Gonsalves have anything in common. I'm told that Gonsalves means son of Gonzalo, but I'm sure that Gonçalo Corrales also must have some Portuguese connections. But as far as I know, although we are now scattered all over the globe, I don't think we are connected. So that's out of interest. The final thing is the Bhakti Gita. I remember it with great affection because I joined the Bhakti group, Gita group mainly, so that I could meet all the young, beautiful girls who sang in the choir, and also visit all the important people's houses where they gave us nice food. One place was Cinema Vandananak. I remember going to the Prime Minister's residence and being treated with food, and she even actually spoke to me and asked me whether my name is how it's pronounced. I was quite impressed by that. So I had all the Bhakti Gita, all printed and written, but such a long time ago, long before you were born, Dinithi. It's probably all lost now. So I'd love to see the collection. So thanks again for a wonderful thing. And again, I echo everybody's thoughts that we must be totally multicultural, not only in spirit, but in behavior. And I'm hoping that your production, which will be on YouTube, I'm sure Ruan will see to that. I look forward to digesting it again because there's such a lot to take there. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming.
before handing over to Mahesh's question, there is a connection between Gonçalo Corral and Gonsalves. It is gone. So anyway, I'll hand it over to Mahesh.
Just a quick one. Dinithi, the Nadagam tradition that you were referring to, and in the eastern province, there is another form called Kuttu. And a guy called Maunaguru from the Eastern University has done a lot of work on that. And the traditions of Kuttu and Nadagam are said to be indigenous to Sri Lanka and mostly around the coastal areas. And they have very, very, very close resemblance, if not identical things, Kuttu and Nadagam.
Very interesting to know. Thank you for that, Nirmala. And also like this Sati Arya, like who spoke before, who asked a question about the instruments. So I just remembered now, like it is said that Father Gonsalves, like he used Rabana as well. Violin and Rabana.
There is a
one quick word to Dinithi.
Sure.
Dinithi, you referred very, very briefly to Daskon.
Yes.
I was hoping that you will tell a little bit more about him. Maybe next time, that will be fascinating. I saw
Yes.
Santusha in the audience. If not you, maybe Santusha can take that on. Because I would like to very much hear about Daskon more.
So, like, before I read up on Father Jacome Gonsalves, I only knew about, like, Daskon and Pramila. So, like, Daskon was, like, he was in love with a queen, Queen Pramila in King's Court. So that's all I knew about him, and I never realized that he was like so proficient in Sinhala, and he taught Sinhala to Father Jacome Gonsalves. That was like
you know the kavi, Daskon ගැන කවිය දන්නවද?
I know the song, I don't know the kaviya.
Right, I'll tell it to you later. By the way, are you going to send this to Professor Sunil Ariyaratne? When the recording is there, can I have the permission to send it to him?
Of course,
Right.
sir.
All right. Yeah.
And Rochana again?
Yeah, just a quick question. You in that picture, one of your students had used a color as an instrument. Was there a particular reason for that? Yeah.
Because like I thought like now our students also like sometimes like when they are asked to bring instruments, like they go overboard and they bring these drums and like a lot of like hi-fi gadgets, and I thought the closest like that we could get to, and also like in the Prof Sarachchandra's Nadagam, like you hear this particular drum called the maddale. So like this when you beat on a color, that I thought like it sounded similar to that somewhat. I mean, not identical, but there was some similarity. So like rather than like getting them to play on a like a Western drum set or tabla or something like that, because Father Gonsalves's music was very much influenced by the folk music of the rural people who were living in the coastal belt. I thought that that would be more appropriate than a sophisticated drum.
Yeah, that sounds very nice. Thank you.
Mahesh?
Yeah, quick one. Dinithi, the kalaya is a very established repertoire as a percussion instrument. Established. It's called the ghatam. If you watch even now, if you watch a Carnatic concert, ghatam is essentially a clay pot. Yeah, so it's an established thing.
Yes. Thank you.
So another trivia for you, Dinithi, and for the audience. The longest surviving passion play is in Oberammergau in Germany, and they still have that play since 1600s. And it's done every 10 years. And I was so lucky to attend the last one, which was held in 2022, I think. It's a very worthwhile experience for anybody who's interested. And the next one would be in somewhere around 2030 or 32. It was the last one was postponed because of the COVID epidemic. I think they were due to have it in 2020. Yes, so the interesting fact there is the revival of passion plays came out from Obramagao in mid 1600s, and according to you, by about 1700s, the passion plays were started even in Sri Lanka. So not a long time between the two of the passion play revival in the world. Anything anybody wants to add to that, or any other questions? Looks like none. So therefore, we need to conclude this. This is the time when I would invite everybody to put on your videos, because we are going to, and put on your, unmute yourself as well. Dinithi, that was a fascinating presentation, a very fascinating presentation. And we are so fortunate to be in the audience to hear this. And once again, on behalf of every one of us here, thank you so much. And let's show our appreciation in the normal fashion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And it was a pleasure to see all of you.
Thank you. And the proceedings are concluded now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.